Hello and welcome to today's call. I'm Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. Let's talk a little bit about how to manage your small farm, homestead, or estate. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you're able to sustain your own well-being, physical security, food, and shelter. Now these four things are very important because they're going to help you have the foundation of your overall homestead and position you in such a way that you're going to be able to basically feed yourself. You're going to have less fears and worries. Now, I see a lot of folks that spend all their career life working and slaving away and then essentially not being able to have the vitality and energy that they need to run a farm. Now, again, when you're dreaming about it for years, you're going to try to do it anyway, but it's going to be suffering, pain, and difficulty. But what if there was a way today to start living your dream, to start your small farm, homestead, or estate? Now, this means starting where you are right now in the home that you have today. Now, it may not be ideal. Maybe you live in an apartment and you work in the city. It doesn't matter. You're going to start educating yourself. You're going to start practicing in some way or form. And then you're ultimately going to start building out that plan for your small farm, homestead, or estate. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say you live in the city of Raleigh, North Carolina. And you live in the city and you've got city problems and you want to live in the country to have freedom and fresh air. Well, how can you start doing that right now from the situation you're in to see whether or not you enjoy the experience, to see whether or not you've got to, you really want to get your hands dirty, and then start living those sustainable means today? Well, it starts by shopping at a bulk and packaged food store. So instead of going out to the grocery every day or every week, you start meal planning and you start building out a pantry and you start at least having 3 to 6 months of food available to you at your home at any given time. Now, again, this is not some doomsday prepper thing. This is from ready.gov. And if there was a storm or a power outage, do you have fresh water? Do you have basic foods? Do you have what you need for 3 to 6 months at your home right now? Well, that's going to require you to learn a bit about pantry management, which is an essential skill on your homestead, because as harvests come in, sometimes you're going to have bounty and sometimes you're not, and you have to be able to store those foods and to have those foods available when you need them. Now, in a city, you might start out with just going to the grocery store, going to the Costco, going to the Sam's Club, but start looking at ways that you can shop at the farmer's market, buy fresh produce, and then eat some of the fresh produce, but then can or value add other produce. If you want hands-on experience working at a farm, there are plenty of farms that you can take as a retreat. You can go for the weekend, camp at the farm, work at the farm, and depending on what the season is, Rocky Mount, Virginia, for example, you can go pick apples. So you stay at a campground nearby, you go pick apples, you get to eat some apples, but you also get the experience of what it's like to seasonally harvest fruits and vegetables. I gave Raleigh as an example because they have the Raleigh City Farms, but there are also 5 or 10 other farms in the area that are more than happy to have volunteers come in and farm. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, my time is valuable and I want my own homestead and I don't want to volunteer someplace else. But again, how are you going to get the practical skills? If you're sitting down watching the YouTube videos and you're dreaming and you're hoping and you're going to the homestead conventions and you're going to these different events all over the place, you're already volunteering your money. Why not volunteer some of your time to gain practical experience? Now, again, I told you the homestead has to be self-sufficient. Well, are there table herbs that you could start at your home? So your basil, thyme, cilantro, all these herbs that are not usually fresh at the market, can you start growing them at your home where you are today? Most of these herbs only take a very small amount of space, but again, it'll help you get the process. Now, growing herbs in your home, you're going to have pest management issues. You'd be surprised where aphids show up, but ultimately, it's an application of skills rather than fantasy and dreaming. Now, I know you guys are members of the Homestead forums on the Facebooks. You're a member of the, you subscribe to all the right channels on the YouTubes. You have done all the things necessary to consume information, But what I'm saying is there's an unlimited supply of information to consume, and I would much rather you get one book or one resource and then go start using these resources in real life. And it's really hard to explain it to people, but when you start actually gardening, when you start that first square foot garden, you will find out that much of what's on the internet is completely useless. I don't even bother to clean up. You know, I'm on travel. I'm just sitting down here getting you guys a video, making sure you're getting the good advice and you're getting moved towards your goal rather than entertained. I probably have more subscribers if I entertained you, but ultimately my point is for you to actually start living in a more sustainable, lower resource life so that you can have greater abundance, greater financial security, and most of all, food security. See, we think and we dream about having this beautiful, lush homestead, but we don't understand the maintenance required. So some folks criticize when I talk about estates and talk about having staff and talk about having people who come and work on your farm and having income sources on the farm. And they say, oh, Justin, I'm just, Little House on the Prairie is fine for me. You know, the folks at Little House on the Prairie got up at 5 or 4 o'clock every morning and they milked the cows and they fed the animals and they fed the horse and they fed the chickens. Now, you don't see all this on TV because it's not good television. It is if there's a lot of drama involved, but ultimately, if you have a plan and you have a system for performance, you won't have all the drama. In fact, you can go out and have these things operate, but it takes time, it takes focus, and it takes some experience. Why not get that experience today? Now, there may be a link in the description below, at least to the newsletter or to the website where you can ask questions, but you can also put something in the comments. I don't know your specific geographic region, but in the Mid-Atlantic region, the Piedmont region, there's more than a handful of small farms where you can start getting hands-on experience. In fact, the farm I volunteer on has an apprenticeship program where you can stay there for a few months and actually learn the seasons, which is very important, and the chores and activities that are necessary on that particular farm. And you might be saying, well, Justin, isn't that kind of like getting free labor for the farm? And believe me, when you have a small farm, homestead, or estate, you're going to understand how there's a learning exchange here where the person who's coming to work is learning and they're not as efficient or as effective as the farmer needs them to be, but the farmer has the patience to start teaching you, and you're going to get that hands-on experience. So when you see me out there in my farmer costume, tilling a field or picking up rocks or putting plants in the ground or doing the strawberry beds, if you saw that last video with the strawberry beds, I'm not getting paid to do that. In fact, those vegetables are my vegetables for my family, and I am contributing to their planting, I am contributing to the design, and I am applying my permaculture design certification. Now again, I also have a small garden at my house. I also have access to farmland, and I do consulting work too. So maybe I'm a little bit different situation, but what I'm encouraging you to do right now is to find the farm in your area. If you want to learn how to make soap, and you need to go learn how, you've never milked a goat before, yeah. And I gotta stop looking at myself in the thing because it distracts me. But here's my point. If you've never milked a goat before or you've never taken care of animals, you have to interact and get that practice as soon as possible, because when you have an animal on your property that could be worth $150, $250, and you can't care for it properly, then you're going to have problems. It's not good for the animal. It's not good for you. But again, it starts with volunteering somewhere. And yeah, there's paid farm work. You could go work seasonally, but I know a lot of you folks have full-time jobs, and this is that dream you've got going on in the background, and there's nothing wrong with this dream. Living a simpler life, living a more sustainable life, living a life of abundance is, and there's some people say there's a conflict there. How can you be sustainable and be abundant? Well, you know what? The media is teaching you that sustainable means doing less, doing with less. No. Nature tells us that there's abundance everywhere, because one seed of corn, one little corn kernel can turn into hundreds of corn kernels with the proper soil, the proper season, and the proper care. And that's where I really want for you. I want you to start seeing that. So I don't care if you live in a studio apartment in the middle of New York City. There's a rooftop garden somewhere. There's a garden out in the country. There's a garden at the end of a metro station that you can get to. Like I said, Raleigh, North Carolina. You can live in the city of Raleigh, hop on the metro and get out to either the Raleigh City Farm, you can get on, take a bus, whatever. You can get to some place that accepts volunteers, that has a training program. Okay, you're not slave labor. You're going there to learn, and also has some sense of community, because that is the most valuable part, that sense of community. If you've got 3 to 6 months of food at your home, and there's a storm or a natural disaster, and you're still all alone by yourself, not connected with community, well, it's not a good situation. But if you start today managing your pantry, meal planning, living more simply because we want less distractions, but sustainably because we have more abundance than we need, then if something goes wrong, you've got the reciprocal value of that community you've developed, which is going to put you in a position to live better, to live healthier, and to be just lifted up overall. Now, I want to summarize with this very important thing. Your dreams of small farm, homestead, or an estate, your 3 to 5 acres, your 5 to 100 acres, it starts today. Listen carefully. I'm looking right at you. I see you. Don't go to another YouTube video. Don't be scrolling down don't doom scroll the Reddit forums. Don't go to the Facebook Homestead forum. Right now, grab a sheet of paper, just a simple notepad, and start writing down what is your dream going to look like. And then we're going to proxy that into what can you start experiencing today. And it's going to be enjoyable adventures with your family. It's going to be harvest festivals. It's going to be little community events. It's going to be big community events. And it's going to be more meaningful in everything that you do, because you'll know that you're moving towards a goal of being your own person, a goal of being able to provide for your family no matter what happens, and a goal of having both financial and food security that comes with a different way of life. So I know a lot of folks are going back to the land. In 1970s, they did the same thing. It isn't about just being on the land. It's about understanding how nature and land works. If there's a certification like a permaculture design certification, or a naturalist certification, or an organic grower certification that you want to get going with, stop the videos and simply get a book and sit down in nature and read that book and start getting involved. Go to the classes, go to the events, meet the people. When you start interacting with that community, you'll know whether or not you want to be in that community. And you can also start finding communities where you can exchange a little bit of your time for a lot of experience, a lot of value, and a real understanding of what's going to work for your small farm or homestead. Instead of dreaming about it, let's start living it. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. If you've got questions, leave them in the comments below, or visit the website at www.prosperityhomestead.org. Take action today. I'm not going to see you in the next video today. Tomorrow maybe, but today do something. And I want to hear about what you're going to do. I want to hear about what you are doing to put these principles in action so that you get the best value from your land, whether it's your land or you're living on somebody else's land or you're living in an apartment. What are you doing right now? Because that is the foundation for the life that you will enjoy and you will live, hopefully forever. See you guys later. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead.